Hello everyone, my name is JJ, and I thought today we would talk about some of the more obscure flags of Canada. I already did a video about all of the provincial flags of Canada, so I thought we would do something a little bit different today. We are going to look at some flags that are not associated with specific places in Canada, but are rather sort of symbolic representations of, groups of people, or history, or ideas. But just a heads up before I begin, today's video is sponsored by our friendly friends at Skillshare, the awesome teach you how to do anything website. They have a great deal right now where you can get 2 free months if you sign up using the link in the thing below. We will talk more about Skillshare in a bit. So let us begin with some of the popular variations on Canada's beloved maple leaf flag. Because the Canadian maple leaf flag is so iconic, it is very popular to make modified versions of it for different groups. For example, a lot of LGBT groups in Canada use a maple leaf flag with rainbow bars instead of the red ones. There have also been a lot of efforts to create an Aboriginal looking maple leaf flag for Native Canadians. You sometimes see ones with a sort of Indian chief type figure on the maple leaf, like this one or this one. Then there is some variation on this where you kind of have the whole maple leaf flag run through a kind of indigenous pattern. You see this version of the maple leaf once in a while too. This was designed by a guy in the 1990s who thought we needed a new version of the maple leaf to specifically acknowledge the French Canadians, which is what these blue bars are supposed to represent. This is sometimes rather presumptuously called the Canadian Unity flag. Then of course you have the Canadian pothead community who are very fond of doing this with the flag. I personally find all of these rather offensive, because one of the things you learn about when you study Canadian history was just how difficult it was for this country to settle on the maple leaf flag. Coming up with this precise design was a real struggle for Canada, and one of the reasons why we settled on this design was exactly because it was very bland and generic and inoffensive. Canada's flag is actually quite unusual among flags of the world in that it does not contain any official symbolism. Nothing on the flag represents anything in particular. It is just a flag that represents Canada and all Canadians. So when some group comes along and makes some little modification to the maple leaf flag, adding some little feature to make it more representative of gays or French Canadians or whatever, they are really betraying the purpose of the Canadian flag, which was to be a symbol of unity for all Canadians. Speaking of Canadian history, here is a flag from Canada's past, known as the Pearson Pendant. See, in the old days, Canada's flag looked like this. Or at least something like this. The precise design changed a lot, which is one of the reasons why it was not very popular. In the 20th century, various Canadian governments made various half-hearted attempts to create a new Canadian flag, but none of these really went anywhere. So in 1964, the new Prime Minister of Canada, Lester Pearson, got frustrated with all of this, and he was like, fine, I'll just invent a new Canadian flag on my own. And then one day he got up and he was just like, okay, check this out. I've come up with this. This should be the new flag of Canada. It's got 3 maple leaves in the middle because the maple leaf is the symbol of Canada, and then we've got these 2 blue bars on either side because Canada borders 2 oceans. This was not popular. Even though a lot of Canadians wanted a new flag, there was not a lot of support for the idea that the Prime Minister should just unilaterally come up with one on his own. Hence why this thing quickly got the dismissive nickname of the Pearson Pendant. And Pearson eventually backed down, and his flag didn't go anywhere, but it is still a common symbol of a period of time in Canadian history known as the flag debate. What Prime Minister Pearson wound up doing in the aftermath is what all good political leaders do when faced with a difficult decision: dump responsibility on some committee. And in October of 1964, the Flag Committee came up with 3 finalists: the Pearson flag, the flag that wound up winning, and this number. This weird looking flag is another popular symbol of the flag debate because of what a hideous abomination it is. In fact, that's even what they called it at the time, Diefenbaker's abomination. After former Conservative Prime Minister John Diefenbaker, who had been very demanding that the new Canadian flag include references to Canadian history, which is obviously a lot easier said than done. Talking of old Canadian flags, it is interesting that the pre-1964 Canadian flag is still part of Canadian culture today, although the symbolism is now a lot different. At some point, the old Canadian flag, which is also known as the Red Ensign, was kind of co-opted by fringe right-wing groups in Canada. And this is the context in which you are most likely to see it today, like at anti-immigrant rallies and stuff. Because of all of the overt British symbolism, it has kind of been reimagined as a symbol of Anglo pride or even supremacy, which is one of the reasons why it was gotten rid of in the first place. I would say that these days it kind of occupies a cultural space similar to the Confederate flag in the US. I mean, it obviously doesn't have nearly the same sort of historic racial baggage, but it is used in a similar kind of way by a similar kind of person. All right, now let's go back to the Aboriginal people of Canada for a second. As I alluded to before, there has never really been a unifying flag for the Aboriginal people of this country, although there have been some modified maple leaf flags that have kind of served that purpose. Another popular choice, however, is this flag here, which is sometimes called the Mohawk warrior flag. You see this flag a lot in the context of protests by Native Canadians. It's thus sort of associated with a certain kind of like indigenous rights militancy, the sort of Aboriginal activists who blockade roads or occupy buildings and this sort of thing. It first became mainstream in the 1980s when a lot of actual Mohawk Indians in Canada and the United States were engaging in this sort of protest. But these days, I would say it has sort of become a more generic symbol of the indigenous rights movement in North America, if maybe on the more extreme end. A softer symbol of the native rights movement in Canada would be this flag here, with this big infinity symbol on it. This is the flag of the Métis people of Canada, who are basically mixed race folk of Aboriginal and white background. Determining exactly who is or isn't a true Métis person in Canada is a subject of increasing contention in this country. But for the purposes of this, what is important to know is that they have just been a historically well-organized community in Canada with a lot of unique symbols, including the flag. Other ethnic minority groups in Canada have flags of their own as well. In one of my other videos, I think I talked about how the Canadian government has made flags for all of the different French-Canadian communities across the country. I personally think these flags are a little pointless. They're certainly extremely obscure, just given how small the community of French Canadians generally is outside of Quebec, with the exception of this flag here, which I would say is reasonably well known. This is the flag of the French Canadian people of Canada's Atlantic provinces, also known as the Acadians. It is obviously just the French flag with a little star on it. The star represents Catholicism, which was historically a bigger part of French Canadian culture than I would say it is today. All right, so here is an obscure flag you will sometimes see flying from the top of Canadian buildings. This is the flag of the Governor General of Canada. The Governor General is the representative of the British monarch in Canada, and as a result, the Canadian government has some traditions for that office that are very similar to the traditions that the British have for their queen. And one of these traditions is that when the Governor General is in a building, you are supposed to take down the Canadian flag and put up the Governor General's flag instead. The same is true with all of the Lieutenant Governor Generals of all of Canada's provinces. But considering that most Canadians wouldn't know who their Lieutenant Governor is if they ran over them, these flags are like super duper obscure. Reflecting her status as our colonial master, the Queen has her own Canadian flag too. Hardcore monarchists in this country would probably recognize this flag. At the flag store, I was able to buy this little bumper sticker of it. I guess you can put it on your car if you're really into the monarchy, which I am not. Lastly, let us talk about some of the regional flags of Canada. So this flag here is the flag of the province of Newfoundland. But before it joined Canada in 1949, Newfoundland was its own weird little country with its own set of patriotic symbols. One of them was this flag here, the so-called pink, white, and green. It was never the official flag of Newfoundland, just a sort of nationalistic symbol associated with the place. No one really seems to agree where it came from or what it means. Its exact origins are sort of lost to time. It sort of had its heyday in like the late 19th century, but then in the 20th century, everybody basically stopped caring about it. Until, that is, the Newfoundland tourism industry needed some symbol of the past to dig up so that they could stick it on all of their kitschy Republic of Newfoundland merchandise. In 2004, the Conservative Prime Minister of Newfoundland, Danny Williams, suggested getting rid of this flag and replacing it with the pink, white, and green, but that idea was terribly unpopular, so he quietly abandoned it. I suppose the Newfoundlanders did not want their provincial flag to be a souvenir. And speaking of souvenirs, check out this set of stickers I got in Vancouver the other day. This is what is known as the Cascadia flag. Cascadia refers to the geographic area around the Cascade mountain range, which runs from here in southern British Columbia to northern California. Some people say that this area, also known as the Pacific Northwest, has enough culture and history in common to form its own country, the Republic of Cascadia. So in the early 1990s, some guy made a flag for Cascadia, which is what this is. Sometimes people call this the flag of the Cascadian separatist movement, but that's really not a thing. It's really just a symbol for people that have a lot of Pacific Northwest pride, you know, like surfers and mountain bikers and folks like that. They sell a lot of merch with stuff on it out here. I personally think it's a pretty ugly flag with these two dark colored bars and this this kind of gross looking tree in the middle. Check out this much classier version I made using Adobe Illustrator. And you know who taught me how to use Adobe Illustrator? Why, it's today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is one of the best websites to use if you want to learn how to do anything involving graphic design, including using any of the popular programs like Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign. It's also great when it comes to learning anything about video editing, like how to make your own YouTube videos. Skillshare features thousands of video tutorials that explain how to do just about anything, in fact. Not just art and computer stuff, but like photography and cooking and accounting and salesmanship. They have high quality expert teachers who can guide you through, step by step, any new or mysterious realm of knowledge. I was a Skillshare subscriber even before I started doing sponsored videos for them, just because I found it very useful to have this realm of knowledge I could tap into at any time. I found that doing an hour-long Skillshare tutorial could sort of become a fun evening tradition. Like this one class I took the other day about how to draw stylized Pokemon using Illustrator's shape manipulation function. I certainly always feel like a wiser man after getting through one of these. Anyway, the Skillshare people want you to become a Skillshare user too, which is why they're setting you up with this great deal. 2 free months for the first 500 people who sign up using the link in the thing below. Do not delay, give Skillshare a try today. And let us look at just one more flag before we go. This flag here, the US-Canadian Friendship Flag. This is a flag I often see for sale in very tourism-heavy parts of big Canadian cities. It is obviously supposed to primarily appeal to American tourists, who obviously like the idea of buying a souvenir that celebrates their friendship with their neighbors to the north. Of course, a lot of Canadians I think are probably too insecure to own one of these things. Not me though. I want this on my casket when I die. I will see you all next week.
But Mike Pearson wants this. Well, he is the Prime Minister. But blue is not an official Canadian color.